Welcome to Morning Infusion with Dr. V. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to own your own business and be a podcaster who is financially independent? Stay tuned to our next guest. My name is Dr. Viola Pierce. I'm the owner and CEO of VP Nursing and the Nurse Nurturer and the facilitators of Secret Suppers Worldwide with Dr. V, where our goal is to equip healthcare professionals to be wealthy in all areas of their lives. Our goal is to come to you each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to give you the fuel to crush your goals and show up exceptional on a daily basis. You can follow us on Twitter at The Nurse Nurturer, Instagram at VP Nursing, and if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and please share this video. We have a group on Facebook called The Nurse Nurturer that you can join and receive uplifting content for healthcare professionals. You can also visit us at our website at V as in Victor, P as in Paul, nursing.com. Our special guest today is Naseema McElroy. Naseema is the founder of Financially Intentional, a platform about personal finance and living life intentionally. She discusses how taking control of her finances has enabled her to overcome bankruptcy, divorce, and break the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. She shares her lessons along her path to help others benefit from the freedoms of financial independence. Outside of encouraging people to get their financial act together, Naseema is a mother and labor and delivery nurse. The people that the ER nurses love. Though making six figures for years, she struggled with money, finally realizing she couldn't out-earn her financial ignorance. She knew she had to make some changes by shifting her mindset around money, being consistent and intentional. She has paid off $1 million in debt and grew a six-figure net worth in 3 years without living in deprivation. You go, girl. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm super excited that you're here. And she's joining us from California. So it is 4:30 in the morning there.
Oh, yes, it is all of 4:30 in the morning.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. So why did you originally become a nurse and why the specialty of women's health?
You know what? The nursing story is actually pretty funny. I actually started off just like a lot of kids. I wanted to be a pediatrician. Got to college, started taking all the prereqs for med school, and I was like, "This is what doctors do." I was like, "Oh, I'm really not interested." So then I kind of pivoted. I wanted to be in healthcare because as a kid growing up, I had asthma. I was raised by my dad, who was a single parent, and we had limited access to healthcare, and I often would have like these crises where I could not get the care that I needed. And so I wanted to impact access. So I was like, I still want to do that. I still want to be in healthcare. And so I literally sat down one day in college, like, I don't want to be a doctor, but I want to be in healthcare. What else can I do? So I flipped through the course catalog and then I discovered healthcare administration. So I went like kind of like a healthcare policy route and got my undergraduate degree in public policy and management with an emphasis on healthcare administration. Then went on to get my master's in healthcare administration and worked in healthcare administration for a very large healthcare company for 5 years and was like, I do not like this. I am not meant for the corporate world. Let's just say that. I was always the youngest person in the room. I was always the brownest person in the room. And because I often knew what I was talking about, I wasn't very well accepted. And I'm not the kind of person to, even though I'm very brown and I have a nose, I don't brown nose. So I did work with a lot of nurses, though, obviously. And that's when I discovered what nurses really did in so many different capacities. And I fell in love with the autonomy that a lot of my friends had. So all my friends were nurses at that point. So they like could work these different places or not work if they didn't want to. to pick up a shift and make all this extra money. They didn't really have to answer to anyone. I saw the power that they had in the organizations. I was like, I'm sitting here being a peon to these people, and you come in, you make your money, and you go, and you just clock in and out, and it just whatever. And I was just like, I love that. I love that autonomy. That's what I craved. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna go back to school. I was very single at that time, get a nursing degree, go travel the world, meet a prince, and marry like a prince of Dubai or something like that. Like that was my goal. So, so
I love
I
that.
I
That's
literally
the specificity of that.
yeah. So I literally quit my healthcare administration job. I was on I like a on in a leadership program, like a fellowship, a very prestigious fellowship. And at the end of that fellowship, I decided not to continue. And I basically told them, I was smart A, 25-year-old. I was like, you know what? I don't think I want to do this anymore. I didn't tell them I was going to nursing school. I was just like, I'm 25. I thought I would be a millionaire by 30. But I'm like really close to it right now. So I'm just going to quit. And at that point, it was like I had like amassed like 5 houses. So I had like $1 million in like house like assets, right? So I was like, so I'm just gonna quit, right? Okay. And that was in 2007. And you know what happened? Like housing market crash and all that kind of stuff. But all at the same time, I had quit my job. I moved out of state. I just lived off of unemployment and went to nursing school and did my prerequisites to get into nursing school. Around the same time, my grandfather got sick, and I ended up having to move back to Oakland, California, which is where I'm from, to help take care of him. But then I got into one of the best nursing schools in the world, University of San Francisco. University of California at San Francisco, which is UCSF, and they have an accelerated program. So I'll do the 1-year RN, but you get accepted into the FNP program or a master's program. And I got accepted into the FNP program. And so that's my nursing origin story. It's really interesting. I became a nurse as a second master's degree, which is really weird. Not really recommended, but that's how I became a nurse. But I love nursing. I've been a nurse for over 11 years now, and it's one of the best decisions I've ever made. Yeah.
So, it's Oprah Winfrey said, one of the best ways to find out what you want to do is to find out what you don't want to do. And so, I mean, you just, it took you a little bit longer to get there, but at the end of the day, you got there. That's all that matters.
Right.
And you're probably in a better off shape than most of us are. So it's okay.
And what's funny is people are always like, don't you want to be in leadership? And I was like, don't you know I left leadership?
No, I don't want to do that. So now you immediately transitioned into nurse practitioner?
So I never actually used my nurse practitioner degree. I kind of got burnt out in nursing school. So my program is very prestigious, but it's also, let's just say, not a great program. And so after I did my RN, I started working immediately. To answer your question, how I ended up in maternal health is that when I was graduating from when I finished, I should say, my RN portion, I got a job. This is actually a very interesting story. It was during a time where obviously we were smack dab in the middle of the recession and there were no jobs for nurses, especially in the San Francisco Bay Area. Because if you know anything about the San Francisco Bay Area, this is the highest paying places for nurses. And so we're inundated with experienced nurses that come from all over the world. Like my coworkers come from all over the world here. And so to find a job as a new grad was incredibly difficult. But because, let me tell you, because when I was doing my prereqs and I had moved back to Oakland, I humbled myself and I took a job like as a secretary just so I can get through my prereqs. Nobody really knew about my healthcare administration background, but I took like this temp job as a secretary at a hospital. That's the grace that enabled me when smack dab in the middle of recession, a class of 83 nursing students graduating. I was one of 3 to land a job. And
Wow.
when it was time for me to graduate, I called the staffing office because I used to work with the staffers. And I was like, hey, I'm graduating. They was like, okay, we're going to go to the huddle and we're going to tell the managers that you're graduating. 30 minutes later, I had 3 job offers and I got to choose. And because I was in the FNP program, I was like, let me stick to kind of like maternal health. And so I got offered to be to orient to the mom and baby unit. And that's what I took. And so I did a year of mom and baby, and then I transitioned to labor and delivery. Um, and I can't remember what the original question was.
I love it. I love it. I mean,
Yeah.
and my pastor was telling us about this girl who she was working at a Wendy's. She had graduated working at a Wendy's, right? See, this is what you did. You just worked, right? See, a lot of times we just kind of sit back and we just kind of chill, but you worked. She was working at a Wendy's, and this guy came in, and he was like, he found out that she was very articulate when he talked to her, and he was like, "Why are you working at a Wendy's?" And she was like, "Well, because I can't find a job." And so, literally, the next day, he offered her a 6-figure job. Okay,
Yes,
had she not been working, she wouldn't have gotten that job. Had you
exactly.
not been working, you wouldn't have got that job. I love
Exactly.
it, man, man.
Exactly.
So now, are you a nurse in there or nurse practitioner in there?
I am a straight up staff nurse. I mean, I do
Okay.
charge nursing, but actually, okay, so that's what I was answering. Like, why I never transitioned into being a nurse practitioner. I had a very traumatic experience in nursing school, which kind of turned me off during my nurse practitioner training. And I was already making so much money as a staff nurse. It wasn't appealing to me. And then it's a weird dichotomy here in San Francisco Bay Area where like staff nurses make more than nurse practitioners unless you work for this one particular organization that's very fickle about hiring nurse practitioners. And then you can still make more than a nurse practitioner. So it was like I was already loving what I was doing. Did I want to take a minimum of a $20 an hour pay cut to be a nurse practitioner? And I wasn't in love with like clinic life. I love delivering babies. And so I was like, if the perfect job came my way, I'll work as an NP. And it has been almost 9 years, and I still haven't used my nurse practitioner
I
license. Even
love
though I'm
it.
still very licensed, I still have my furnishing number. I still have all of that, but I'm still very much a labor and delivery nurse.
Well, girl, you do it. I know that's right. We try to go where the money is.
Please, thank you. Mhm,
Now, you paid off a massive amount of debt in a very short amount of time.
mhm.
Why did you endeavor to be debt free, and why was it important? Why is it important for all healthcare professionals?
You know what? That wasn't my endeavor. I just knew that I made a lot of money and I was still struggling. I didn't have anything in savings and I was a single mom. And I knew that if I didn't get my finances together for myself, I had to do it for my daughter because if something were to happen to me, her world would fall apart. And I didn't want that. I chose to bring her in this world. And I felt like it was my responsibility to make sure that she was okay. And so, like, I had to do like a gut check. Like, what is the problem? How can you make 6 figures and not have $50 in your savings account? How can you not have anything set up for your daughter? Mind you, the San Francisco Bay Area, it's very expensive, but it's still not an excuse. And so I sat on a path to figure out how to get my finances together. And I thought it was because I just didn't know how to invest. We just aren't taught how to invest. But ultimately, we're not taught about money in general. And what I realized was that the biggest thing that was standing in my way was the massive amount of debt that I had.
Uh,
And so, in that exploration of what to do with my finances, I realized that becoming debt free was probably the first step that I needed to do in order to take control of my finances. And in that process, I learned so much about money and the freedoms of just being like just one step ahead of paycheck to paycheck brings you. And when you say financially independent, I think people think like you're just independently rich. It's not about that. It's about the levels of freedom that it unlocks in your life, the empowerment that it gives to you to be able to walk away from a toxic work environment, to be able to walk away from an abusive marriage, to be able to choose where you want to work because you can say what's on your mind so that you can really take care of your patients the best way possible. And so that's why taking care of your finances should be paramount to any nurse, because so many people depend on us to be there. But I see it time and time again. Nurses are struggling with their finances, which impacts their work and their ability to care for patients. And I really want to shift to that patient first ethic. And I think that like that key to like having that financial part of your life together is what really shifts it for a lot of nurses, because oftentimes we do what we have to do, not what we get to do, and that's going to impact our patient care. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I love it. I love it. I love all those instances, as you said, because the reality is that, and I say this all the time, if you are worried about your car getting repossessed, you may not be focused on the patient. I mean, that's just it. And if you're worried about, like you're having problems at home because you have an abusive marriage, right? Then you may not be focused on the patient. So that is so true. So I can't see who the Facebook user is, but they said, thanks for sharing your experience, McElroy, because you're
Oh,
phenomenal. so,
thank you.
so tell us about your debt-free journey. Like, how did you start it?
So literally, like I have an hour commute. So I listen to podcasts a lot. So I Googled like what's the top financial podcast I can listen to so that I can be driving and learning, because that's actually what I love to do. Like I use that time to learn. So ironically, Dave Ramsey podcast came up for the top. I Googled the best investment podcast, actually, because remember I said I thought I needed to be better at investing. And so I kind of went down the rabbit hole of Dave Ramsey doing the baby steps, zero-based budgeting, all those things, the debt snowball, and stop investing in my 401k while I was paying off debt, which ended up being a major mistake. But yeah, that's what I did. I followed the Dave Ramsey path of snowballing all of my debt, just paying off one debt at a time aggressively. But what I found was most impactful was learning how to budget, learning how to tell my money where to go, which sounds pretty simple, but is very, 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 very impactful in just your life in general. Once you shift that relationship with your money, you have so much control over your life in general. And so I shifted that relationship, and I went from, like I said, I didn't have any money in the bank to being able to pay off $4, $5, $6,000 a month in debt. And so that enabled me to massively, massively pay off debt really, really fast. And so that's how I set off on that journey. Like I said, along the way, I learned a lot more about finances. I learned about the financial independence community. I learned about being able to retire early, how to properly invest, all those things. And so I just started sharing my lessons along the way as I was learning, because the personal finance community is very not like me. Um, like I'm an open book. I share my story openly and honestly, and I have a very different background than most people in personal finance. And I felt like I didn't find a lot of people that are relatable. I mean, like, let's keep it real. Like Dave Ramsey is not like a role model for me. Like he could never be, right? His values are totally different. His background is totally different, and he couldn't understand what somebody like me had to go through and how I acquired my debt. I mean, but the techniques work. But the thing is that representation matters.
Right.
And if we don't see ourselves or somebody that looks like us doing it, it's hard for us to grasp.
That's right.
And so I felt like it was important to share my story as a Black woman, as a nurse, as a single mom, as a professional, just all the things that I uniquely brought to the table, I felt like were missing in the space. And it was my obligation to, I was always taught to give back, to reach back. Like if you've made a certain success, you always have to teach the next person and bring the next person up. And so that's what I continuously do.
That is golden. Everything you just said, golden. I mean, girl, I applaud you. I applaud you. Now, you have a podcast. What is the name of the podcast, and what was your primary reason for starting the podcast?
So the podcast is called Nurses on Fire, and thank you for being a phenomenal guest on the podcast a few months ago. So it's Nurses on Fire, and it's to introduce nurses to the world of financial independence. And so I share stories of nurses just like you who have done big things with money, just to let us know what's possible. Nursing burnout is super real. But I think, like I said, once you have that shift where you can take control of your money, you can take control of your life. And I feel like the knowledge that you get from, or that the knowledge that the guests provide, gives you a wide array of options of how you can do that. And there's stories of real people just like you that have done things that most people would think is impossible, but making the impossible seem possible so that you can achieve success just in general in life and live life to the fullest. And so just really showing people what's out there, nurses in particular, because like I said, I think that we are an underserved community. We're a mostly women community, very diverse community. Oftentimes, nurses are the breadwinners of their family, first generation, taking care of a lot of people. And we need this financial acumen in order to ensure that we're breaking the cycles of poverty, but also providing generational wealth to our families. So that's why I have the podcast.
Love it. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it because you're a boss. I mean, I admire you. I admired you from like the onset, from the beginning, but like I admire you even more now.
Oh, thank you so much.
So, tell us about someone who has impacted your life and the impact that they ultimately had that changed your life forever.
You know what? I get influences from all over. But there's one person in particular who's only a couple years older than me that had a dynamic impact on my life. We actually have the same birthday. Her name is Myleik Teal. And if you don't know, she's the founder and CEO of Curlbox. And she is just like a self-made millionaire, just boss. And the reason why she had such a huge impact on my life is because she showed me a sense of community and a sense of empowerment that we have, like as Black women, that is phenomenal. And she's had like these 2 retreats at this like luxury resort in Cabo where we can just be unapologetically ourselves. And I've never been in a space with just incredible, strong Black women that are doing major things in the community, in the world, businesses, professionals, influencers, just all in the same space. But like, we go to professional conferences and we go to all these different things where, we're in rooms with people who are successful, but they don't necessarily look like us or have the same backgrounds and the same experiences and have gone through the same struggles, and kind of exposed me to this world where I didn't even know that I needed that sisterhood. And for her to be able to bring such dynamic people together was phenomenal. And so she's a huge inspiration. So if you guys don't know who Myleik Teal is, I would check her out. She has an awesome Instagram page, a phenomenal story. But yeah, she has had a major impact in my life because just a couple years older than me, but like years older in wisdom and just knowledge. Yeah.
So, how do you spell her name? Myleik.
I always transpose I's and E's. So if I spell it wrong, I have to write it down. But it's MyMyleik. Maleik, and the
Okay.
last name is Teal, like steel without the S. So Maleik Teal. She's the
Okay.
founder and CEO of Curlbox. So you can
Okay.
look that up too. Yes.
Gotcha. Now, what is one asset that is important in leadership and most important and why?
So in leadership and like I said, I'm not in nursing leadership, but I feel like I'm a leader in my space in this community. But I really feel like self-integrity and being honest, open and honest is number one.
Huge.
Yeah, integrity to me means taking responsibility for everything that
That's
happens in your
right.
life. All too often, I feel like we put things off on other people and we miss out on lessons that can help us build and grow. But also, it shows other people that you're trustworthy and that you're there, that you'll be there and you'll do what you say that you're going to do. And that makes a huge difference. And so, self integrity is the key to leadership, the key to life, it's the key to everything. So, yeah, I think
That's right.
integrity
I
is it.
love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Now, how do
Mhm.
you define success?
Success means that you are in full control over your life. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a certain amount of money, but it's the way that you can maneuver out of any kind of situation that is presented your way. I'm a pure believer that everything in life happens for you. And if you're able to take advantage of those opportunities, that is success, good or
That's
bad.
right. That's right. I say that
Mhm.
all the time. Not it doesn't happen to you. I can, it happens for you. I
Yes,
remember getting turned down for a job, and that job would have probably eaten me up. However, I got my DNP outside of that, right?
exactly.
So it didn't
Exactly.
happen to me, it happened for me. Now, how
Yeah.
do you define wealth?
Wealth, I think wealth and success go hand in hand. Wealth to me is the levels of freedom in your life that you get to unlock. So every being able to not live paycheck to paycheck, to be able to cover your bills, to be able to have freedom from debt, to be able to have a certain amount of money where you can walk away from a job, you can speak up for that patient. Those are things that are wealthy to me. It's being able to know that if something were to happen to yourself or your family, you would be okay. That's wealth.
I love it. I love it. Now, can you tell the audience where to find you? Because you
Most
have
definitely.
all this knowledge. I love it. I love it. Like I'm cheering you on.
So I'm at most places financially intentional, except for Twitter, where it's financial intent, because Twitter hates on the usernames. Um,
They
so
do.
it's financial intent on Twitter. And also Nurses on Fire. I encourage you, even if you're not a nurse, but if you're looking for encouraging stories of debt freedom, of financial independence, nurses retiring well, like in their 30s and 40s, and being able to do some phenomenal things and make impacts in this world. I encourage you to listen to Nurses on Fire podcast and join the Facebook community as well. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm pretty accessible.
Sweet. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So thank you so much for showing up this morning at the 4:30 a.m. hour.
It was very challenging. It was very challenging, but I did it. I told myself I was gonna do it no matter what. I was like,
And
I'm gonna make this
integrity.
happen. That's integrity. That's my integrity. It was hard, girl, but I did it. And I'm about to
I
go
love
right
you
back to
for
sleep.
that.
Just sleep.
So my name is Dr. Viola Pierce, owner and the CEO of VP Nursing and the Nurse Nurturer and the facilitators of Secret Suppers Worldwide with Dr. V, where our goal is to equip healthcare professionals to be wealthy in all areas of their lives. Our goal is to come to you each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to give you the fuel to crush your goals to show up exceptional on a daily basis. You can follow us on Twitter at the Nurse Nurturer VP Nursing on Instagram. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and please share this video. We have a group called the Nurse Nurturer on Facebook that you can join to receive uplifting content for healthcare professionals. You can also visit our website at vpnursing.com. Y'all have a good